We are in 2026, in February 2026, more precisely. And so we are at the start of Black History Month in the US. And what happened 2 days ago is that Donald Trump, the president of the United States, posted a plainly racist video on his social website, Truth Social, and everybody is outraged. It's a racist video using the images of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama and showing them on top of the bodies of monkeys. So I'm making this video in order to talk about what that means. We are the Peace Compass and we are promoting the advancement of peace around the world. So racism is a very central issue for me, and it has to be. I'm a Black person, I'm a Black female with a funny name. That means that racism is something that I've experienced many times. And so when an event like this happens, it's important that through the Peace Compass, I state our position clearly. This video is in two parts because there are multiple aspects that we can highlight here. I have been thinking about it for the past 2 days as it's a story that has animated me. And so I want to start by saying that I don't share the outrage that most people are experiencing. And I think that the reason is because I have long known Trump as being a racist. I have long classified Trump as a person able to send that type of post, that type of xenophobic message. So I'm actually not surprised. I'm disappointed, of course, but not surprised at all. I cannot be outraged because for me, it's in the perfect continuation of a long series of evidence that Trump is a racist. And this starts, for me, with his condemnation of the Central Park Five. So it's a story that dates from the late 1980s, and the Central Park Five are those young boys that Trump deemed guilty of the rape of a white woman who was jogging in Central Park. These boys were Black and brown. There were four boys who were Black and one boy who was Latino, and they were all below the age of 18 years old. However, before justice had been rendered, before the facts were known, Donald Trump decided to purchase full-page advertisements in major newspapers calling for the reinstatement of the death penalty, specifically so it could be applied to these boys. Unfortunately, they all spent a long time in prison for the rape of this white woman. And it's only many years later that they got released because they were finally completely exonerated of the rape. So it was essentially a mistake of justice to have condemned them to prison, because eventually the real perpetrator admitted the rape, and the DNA evidence was available to prove that those five boys were not guilty of that rape. But whether the boys were guilty or not, the fact that Donald Trump exercised his white privilege to demand the death penalty on young teenagers, that was enough for me to know that this guy is an absolute racist. He was buying space in newspaper in order to promote the death penalty before the facts were known, before justice was rendered. And so as an adult, rich white man living in New York, I just think that, yeah, he was acting on his white privilege. And I personally think that when you are able to do this on teenagers, regardless of their skin color, they were boys, they were below the age of 18. If you are able to do this, then something must be really rotten in you. That means that you don't believe that anyone is redeemable. The facts is not even known, and you are already campaigning for the reinstatement of the death penalty on those young boys. This is wrong. For me, this is absolutely wrong. A person who can do this has no place in government, no place in leadership, and certainly no place in the presidency of the United States. So, if you are unfamiliar with the case, the Central Park Five case, there's a film called When They See Us that was directed by Ava DuVernay, which is a great film that renders the story of those five boys. I really encourage everyone to watch it. It's a 4-part film that was released back in 2019. I think it's still available on Netflix. And yeah, everybody should watch it. It's in order to educate ourselves about the justice system in the US, about what injustice means, what racism is, but also what it means to go through trauma, what it means to forgive, what compassion means, and also what it means when a system fails the most vulnerable, which was evidently the case for those five young boys. So yeah, it's a great portrayal of those concepts that we have to rattle with as human beings. So through this Central Park event, I think that Donald Trump's racism is obvious and it's acute. The guy is willing to act on his racism, he promotes it, and he deploys resources to exercise it. So from my perspective, Donald Trump's racism is obvious. It is crude, it is recurring, and it is harmful. However, what I can say as well is that I don't believe that racism is the most salient feature of his character. His racism, for me, is just one strand within a much broader pattern, which also includes misogyny, bigotry, xenophobia, and also the repeated dehumanization of anyone that he perceives as weaker, as different, or anyone that is threatening his sense of power. We have seen this pattern again and again in the way he speaks about women, about people with disabilities, about migrants, about political opponents. Racism does not stand alone in his behavior. It is supported, it's reinforced, and it's normalized by a worldview that divides humanity into those who dominate and those who deserve to be dominated. That's, for me, what is the broader pattern in Donald Trump. So it points to something deeper. I think Donald Trump suffers from a profound psychological disorder. Many psychiatrists and mental health professionals have publicly described him as a narcissist. I don't have any degree in psychology, but for me, it's obvious that he is. The pattern is very clear. And for me, it's not ordinary narcissism, it's extreme. Over and over, he has shown to us that he has a deeply distorted relationship with power. The way I see it, it's in his inner world, power is synonymous with worth, strength is synonymous with legitimacy, dominance with what is right or righteousness. And so anything that does not align with his internal image of power, which is essentially being white, male, wealthy, physically able, becomes an object of contempt for him. He can't be associated with anything that doesn't belong to that group. He's just going to feel disgust towards vulnerability, disgust toward difference, disgust toward anything that challenges his sense of superiority. That's why, for me, he cannot tolerate weakness in himself. That is why he dehumanizes people so he can feel superior. That's why he mocks. That's why he attacks. So yeah, in his view of the world, the white male sits at the top of the hierarchy, and he has internalized this so much that it is the lens through which reality is filtered for him. That is why I believe Donald Trump is a white supremacist. There's no question about it. I don't think he calls himself that, or that he considers himself a white supremacist. But It's just the worldview that he has. We all have our singular worldview, and that is his. He operates under the framework of who has power and who doesn't. In today's world, it's the rich white male. He's one of them, and he will do everything to maintain his privilege. So, seen from this perspective, racism is not his core flow. It's a manifestation of something very corrosive, a psychological disposition that simply cannot accommodate equality, compassion, or empathy. That's the reason why I cannot be outraged, because it fits the profile. It is in the perfect continuity of how I see him as a human being in terms of the content of his character, which is, to my mind, depraved, has always been, unfortunately, will always be. He doesn't have the time to change. He's already 80. He doesn't want to change. He doesn't know how to change. I don't think it is in his ability anyway. He has no incentive to question his inner world, because self-reflection would require an acknowledgement of his vulnerability, a recognition of his limitation and of his faults, all things that his psyche just cannot tolerate. So, yeah, for me, this outrage assumes a surprise. It assumes a breach of expectation. And, well, for me, this post that he made of the Obamas as monkeys, it fits perfectly within the continuity of who he has always been. As I said, I'm disappointed because no president of the United States should ever behave this way, but I am not shocked. And I think much of the public outrage comes from a refusal to accept a more disturbing truth that this is not an anomaly, it's not a slip, it's not a mistake, it is his character. And so once we understand that, a much bigger question emerges. And I think it's about what happens when this kind of character holds the most powerful office in the world. And so that is what I want to explore in part 2 of this series. So see you in the next video.